It was late at night when Clara found herself standing before the crumbling, dimly lit building. The old hospital had been abandoned for years, yet the rumors about it still lingered, murmuring in hushed voices across the town. Some said the place was haunted by the souls of patients long gone, while others claimed it was the site of strange experiments, now erased from history. But Clara, a journalist searching for the truth, was determined to uncover whatever secrets the hospital held. She pushed the rusted door open, the hinges groaning in protest, and stepped inside. The air was thick with the smell of mildew and decay, the darkness consuming the space like a living thing. The hospital's once sterile halls were now stained with age, the walls peeled like old skin, yellowed and sagging under the weight of time. Clara's flashlight flickered as she ventured deeper into the building. The beam cut through the thick shadows, revealing broken windows, cracked floors, and abandoned medical equipment scattered across the floors like forgotten relics of a bygone era. A faint rustling sound came from a room to her left. She hesitated for a moment but pushed on, determined to document every corner of this forsaken place. Her footfalls echoed eerily as she walked past rooms filled with old, overturned chairs and decaying furniture. In one room, she saw what was left of a metal gurney, its wheels rusted beyond use. Another room had a broken mirror, shards of glass scattered across the floor. The deeper she went, the more oppressive the atmosphere became. It was as though the hospital itself was alive, watching her every move. As Clara turned a corner, she stumbled upon a broken chair near the entrance to the main lobby. The chair lay on its side, its legs twisted and shattered, as though someone had been violently thrown into it. It was a strange detail in a place already filled with desolation. Suddenly, she froze. A sound, soft, almost imperceptible, reached her ears, the faintest whisper of movement, like footsteps dragging across the floor. Clara's heart raced. She wasn't alone. "Hello?" Clara called out, her voice trembling. But there was no answer, only the endless silence of the hospital's rotting halls. The sound of footsteps continued, distant but unmistakable. She strained her ears, trying to make sense of it. It was coming from a room at the end of the hall. With caution, Clara crept toward the door. Her hand trembled as she reached for the handle, but before she could open it, a shadow darted across the wall, disappearing into the dark recesses of the room. She gasped, backing away quickly, her pulse pounding in her ears. "Who's there?" she demanded, her voice now a mixture of fear and frustration. The room remained still, but Clara knew something. Someone was in there. Slowly she opened the door, the hinges creaking loudly in the silence. Her flashlight flickered again, casting long, wavering shadows on the walls. The room was filled with broken medical instruments, discarded syringes, and shattered glass. There were old hospital beds, now rusted and covered in dust. The atmosphere was suffocating, thick with the weight of lost memories. Then the humming started. It was a faint sound at first, like the distant buzz of a machine. But as Clara stepped further into the room, it grew louder, more insistent. The humming seemed to surround her, filling her mind with a sense of dread. She scanned the room frantically, her breath shallow, when she noticed something in the corner. Movement. A figure stood there, shrouded in shadow, its form barely discernible against the darkened walls. Clara's eyes widened as she tried to focus on it, but the figure seemed to shift and distort with every blink. It was as if the shadows themselves were alive, moving and changing, twisting around the figure like a cloak. Clara stumbled backward, her heart racing as she tried to make sense of what she was seeing. The humming turned into a low, guttural whisper, words she couldn't quite understand, but they were unmistakable, beckoning her, drawing her closer. She felt the presence before she saw it. The shadow had moved. It was no longer in the corner, but now it was right in front of her, stretching toward her like a hand reaching from the darkness. Clara screamed, but the sound was swallowed by the building, as though it had never existed at all. The shadow reached out, its tendrils wrapping around Clara's legs, pulling her toward the floor. She struggled, gasping for air, as the room seemed to close in around her. The walls stretched, bending and twisting, the very fabric of reality distorting before her eyes. With a final scream, Clara was pulled into the shadows, disappearing into the dark, just as the door slammed shut behind her. Outside, the hospital stood silent, its broken windows staring out into